One more? Okay, we gotta find one more. I thought it was time to eat, so I gotta put my brain together to figure out who's next. I think I know it's gonna be. We never had a training squadron with us that I can recall. So today, we're gonna do it. Duberow?
Coming here.
This is Paul Duberow, and I think this is your first time with us, isn't it?
Yes, it is. First time. I got it. I'll start right out. I was glad I got the American Legion magazine, and so I saw the Night Fighter World War II reunion. So I got on the phone and had Rich Zebart's phone number in there, and I called him, and he said, he was sure glad I called because he stated that they never had anybody else from a training squadron. And he made me feel welcome and explained to me how to make hotel reservations for my wife and myself. And my wife, Bobby, sits right there. She's a wonderful person. I entered the Army on March 15th, 1943, and discharged February 28th, 1946, almost 3 years. I took basic training in Greensboro, North Carolina, went to Lincoln, Nebraska for A&E training, then to Hawthorne, California for training on the Black Widow Night Fighter at Northrop Aviation. Then I went to leap up and down the state. I went to Fresno, Salinas, Hayward, and Van Nuys, California. We just moved up and down the state. In Fresno, I started out working on B-34 that they use for pilot transition flights. The crew chief was a super guy, a real nice guy, but he wouldn't say, well, never mind, he wouldn't say shit if he had a mouthful. We had to replace the plexiglass nose for in the front end, and we assembled it in the hangar. It was in 4 sections with aluminum bands, and we set it up on the nose. Then I went inside the plane, up in the bombardier's compartment there, and he stayed outside on the stand we had, and he reached down to get a bolt to put in the hole, and I was inside supposed to put the nuts on. Well, sure, shooting, that sucker popped right off and went to the ground and broke in pieces. And nevertheless, he threw his tools on the ground, kicked them off in the ground, and he said, son of a buck. He wouldn't, what control? And later on, we got another one and assembled it and put it on okay. From there, I went to Salinas, where I got the crew chief on the A-20 until our P-61s came in. That's where I met Quasimodo. Many of you know Quasi. I got to be a crew chief. I guess it was a she, not a he. I guess Quasimodo, I couldn't tell, but it was a great plane. Quasimodo, I was with Quasimodo until the war was over. At times, when stationed in Salinas, we had to go to an air base on a plateau on top of a mountain called Estrella, because the fog in Estrella was so thick they couldn't fly out of there. And our pilots training, they flew around the clock on transition flights all the time. We had one of our planes that put in 20 hours in one day. And at Salinas and Estrella, the crews worked 12-hour shifts, 12 from 6 in the morning to 6 at night, and 6 at night to 6 in the morning. And me being not a daytime sleeper, I couldn't get much sleep. About 3 or 4 hours a day I could get. Our base commander was Captain Wooten, a hell of a good guy. And we always called him, but I don't think he knew it, Captain Wooten, Tooten, Tooten, Highfalutin, Wooten, you know. Just a nickname for him, you know. But I don't think he really knew that we did that. And Captain Wooten said that we had to go on a bivouac in a 5-mile hike. And it was on a weekend. And we all geared up with our backpacks and tents and everything. And we all loaded on the truck and went to the Redwood National Park. And they let us out there, and we had to hike the last 5 miles into the park. We set up at the U.S. and on the campground. I just had an open field there. And then we, and believe it, but they had all the pilots and all the officers waiting on all the enlisted men. They did all the work, the cooking and everything. And then I think Saturday night they had a USO show at the amphitheater. It was quite a blast. We had a good time. Excuse me. From Salinas, we went to Hayward, California. That's just outside of San Francisco. That was a hell of a good leave town. A few of my buddies and I went to San Francisco on New Year's Eve, and confetti was ankle deep on the ground. Then our squadron commander took us up to Hayward because he wanted to take us all overseas because we had one of the best maintenance record in the 4th Air Force. That's up and down inside the West Coast. He took pilots and gunners and radar operators, and that's where they got all their air-to-air and air-to-ground missions and training. But it ended up that our squadron commander was the only one, besides taking all our flight chiefs from all the categories, and they went overseas. But our flight chief was a heck of a nice guy. He sent us a letter, and he said, "No, you guys are lucky you didn't go with us. But the Japanese infiltrated the camp and threw grenades in the tents and killed a lot of the men. I don't know if any of you guys are in that. I don't know what squadron it was." Then we still remained in Hayward for a while. Then we moved to Van Nuys, where we still were doing the training for pilots on their gunnery operations. Van Nuys was also a good leave town. You get to Hollywood, we hitchhiked lots of times into Hollywood. I always wanted to fly when I was a kid, but my eyes weren't good enough to fly for the Air Force. But being a crew chief on Quasi, I got to fly often. Every 100-hour inspection, the crew chief had to fly with his plane. And I had some hell of a good ride. Boy. I knew those guys could really wring them out. And then the best ride I ever had was going from Hayward to Van Nuys. When we left, all the planes took off and made a formation and buzzed at Hayward Air Base. And then we went down to Van Nuys, and flying over the desert, our flight commander said to the pilots in these planes, "You guys get dispersed and do whatever what you want to do." And Lieutenant Cherry was a pilot of Quasi, and he asked us guys if we wanted to do a slow roll. And I had a buddy of mine in the radar operator seat, and we both agreed, let's go. And I reached back to get my uniform out of the turret opening in the back, and I put it in my lap, and he made the slow roll, and then I hung it back up, because the top was done, and geez, before you know it, was right in another one. And I reached around to get my uniform, but that sucker sat right in the opening, upside down. It never moved a bit, so I said, "Hey, Lieutenant Cherry, you didn't do a slow roll." He said, "No, I didn't." Later in flight, we went across one of the Bell aircraft jets. And the two pilots were looking at me flying around. They said, "Let's have a little dogfight." Well, I'll tell you, we was all over the sky. And finally, they're just like kids going, "Rat-a-tat-tam-tat, you know, we got you." And then the jet made a circle, because they're pretty fast, and they made a bigger arc to turn in. And then Lieutenant Cherry turned that P-61 right inside that arc, and said, "Now I got you." You'll be the spies with them spoilers on top of the wings can make a turn in that aircraft. That was quite a ride. I have a poem I found in my I don't know if you've heard this poem or not. I'll read it. And I'll leave some of these back at the hotel if anybody likes them. She was a widow. She was one of the best. That night I put her to the test. She looked so sweet, so pretty, so slim. The night was dark. The moon was dim. I was so excited my heart missed a beat, for I knew she was in for a hell of a treat. I seen her stripped, I seen her bare. I felt her over everywhere. I got inside her, she screamed for joy. That was the first night, boy oh boy. I got up quickly, and quickly as I could, I handled her gently. I knew she was good. I rolled her over and on her side, and on her back I also tried. She was just one big thrill, the best in the land, the P-61 of the Night Fighter Command. Thank you. Saying I wanted to fly, when I get out of the service, I did fly. I got a pilot's license and I got my own airplane for a while, till I couldn't afford it after I got married and had children. Thank you.